That's right. Another episode of the Toter Tale.
I'm from Oklahoma.
Brought to us by our good friends, ERS Gunite. My boy Tyler Boston, man. 972-935-5769. That's a great song. I don't care. I've heard it 100 times and I've never got tired of having it. That's right. That song and this beautiful cup. I'm going to say this crowning cup of community coffee only means one thing. It's another great Toter Tales coming to you live, and I've got a show today. I got the man, Scott Snedecor, four-time world champion. Four-time, right?
Four-time.
Four-time world champion, steer roper in the Toter today. We're hanging out, drinking coffee, and I said crowning cup because when we went to the community coffee dinner at the finals, this was the greatest point that I've ever heard. This was a great story. Marcus Luttrell is the guest speaker, and he talked about how cowboys, you're not supposed to be wearing caps because God didn't put a crown in a cap. He put a crown in a cowboy hat. So that's divine, just like this beautiful coffee, pecan praline. That smells good, doesn't it?
It does smell good.
Yeah,
It makes the Toter home.
It brings it together.
Nice.
Well, welcome to the Toter Tales.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Like I was telling you, you've joined a very elite group of folks now, and congratulations, you've finally made it.
Finally made it to the show. Perfect.
You know, so I came to your house and roped, and Toter, you kind of took a quick peek inside. What do you think of the new signature look?
You wouldn't even recognize it stepping in now. I mean, spacious. I mean, it still has the same room, but a different look. You know, it's
Absolutely. She brought it up to date, huh?
It's really up to date. Yeah, it's nice.
This is what I call, Scott, this is the make my wife proud of it package.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Now she'll take it to the barrel races and stuff.
Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right now.
Promise you that.
That's right.
Promise you. So Scott, you know, he's been a guy, he's helped me. People talk all the time. They ask me, when did I decide to start steer roping? And I love this story. It's been a few years back. The year was 2016. And I leave Pendleton, Oregon. I'm headed to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Billy Jack Sabins and I have to go jump on a plane. We got done, we left, and I sit, and I got the the window seat, one seat next to me. On walks Scott Snedecor. Now, mind you, like, I've only recognized him from, like, you know, the pictures and stuff, because I never had met you really before, and just knew, you know, obviously who you are. Sits down next to me, and I'm like, oh, here's my chance, and I don't stop. I'm relentless for the next hour flight.
Yeah.
Or hour and a half from Pasco to Salt Lake, wherever we're connecting. We're watching videos. You're showing me all kinds of stuff. We're talking all about what you did before you steer roped. And then I got to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I jerked one on his ear. So, I mean, that's when it took effect,
That's
right there.
Right there. Huh?
So.
Yeah, and that was a good plane ride. I mean, it did. It started it all right there.
I was wondering if you were going to remember the first time that we met right there.
Absolutely, I do, yeah. We watched them, showed you the videos, picked it apart a little here and there, kind of how to start, where to start. And
well, you know, here on the Toter Tales, brought to us by our friends, ERS Gunite. Can't say enough about them. 972-935-5769. You would think I would remember my buddy Tyler Boston's number a lot better than that, especially as many times he bails me out. I mean, Tyler Boston, he can fix it all. Any kind of gunite business, any kind of concrete, doesn't matter. But here on the Toter Tales, Scott, what I like to do is we're going to start. You didn't just start out. Like, I want to know all about you. Like, I wanted to let everybody get to know you. You didn't just start out steer roping. Did you come from like a rich line of steer ropers, like a big heritage of steer ropers, or
No.
did you just? How did it all get going?
You know, when I come right here to Uvalde, I mean, when I come to school, to college in Uvalde, my rodeo coach, Roy Engemiller, he's in charge of all this, taking full responsibility for all my bad habits, good habits, whatever. It's all on his shoulders, you know. So, but no, that's where you know, back before then, I never seen steer rope until I get to college. Never knew it. You know, I live south of Houston a little ways, and you know, you say you're a steer roper. Oh, who do you team rope with? You know, or who's your partner when you say steer rope? And I'm like, dude, it's just single steer roping. You know, people over there don't know it. So they don't have it around. They do now more over there, but growing up, I never saw it until I was in college. So rope cas, team rope quite a bit. Did a little bulldog in there later years of high school, but yeah, once I come to college here at Uvalde, you know, Roy started me in on it, and he was still going a little bit, still making the finals. He would still practice.
And he was a steer roper, I guess.
Yes, he was a very good steer roper. Made the finals probably 9-10 times, I'm guessing. I don't know, but you know, I thought, man, this is pretty cool, you know. So I started practicing over at his house. They would tie him on the ground, right, left. Had a good friend of mine, Coy Smith. He was a Texas Ranger still back then, and he was he already started steer roping and was just practicing quite a bit. Well, Roy, you couldn't get him and melt him on a tying from the post, tying a steer right or left. Rope the dummy, rope a few breakaway, just how you, what do you think about that? You just got to put it on the horns. It was pretty simple, cut and dry, kind of deal. But yeah, that's where it all started at, just tying steers right there at my rodeo coach's house.
Man, that's awesome. That's people. I grew up in Eastern Oklahoma, and there's a lot of steer roping in our part of the world. So I'd always seen it, and I'd always been around. I've always wanted to do it. Honestly, I was just scared to really ever try. At first you're scared when you're young, and then, my career had gotten good enough that it was nerve-wracking to take a chance on hurting myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then finally it was just a leap of faith and take off. But
get after it.
You grew up team roping, did you? And calf roping, right?
Right.
Did you take off rodeo and ever calf
I
roping
did
to
a
make
few,
the finals?
no, I never went long enough, or never went through the summer rodeo and roping calves, a whole lot. But me and Justin Moss, we rodeoed in and out for a little bit, and I'd take off in the wintertime rodeos and go a little bit, and then if I didn't have anything on after the wintertime, I'd just kind of pick and choose and go around, and that was pretty much all said and done right there. Made the circuit finals and team roping a few times, different guys, but other than that, that's pretty much it.
So I was going to go ahead and crack our air on right there. Because now with these, I love clicking buttons that I don't know what I'm doing, which is great. That's how we learn. So did you ever, some of the guys in your era then, you talk about Justin Moss, those guys, like who was your team roping partner when you were rodeoing?
The first one was Randy Halbert. A lot of guys will remember him from years back. He roped with Kermit Moss there for quite a few years. And then me and him went to Texas rodeos and a few summertime rodeos, but made the Texas Circuit Finals. I roped with Pete Pierce one year at the Circuit Finals, and then Chris Green. Me and Chris Green roped around a little bit and made the Circuit Finals one year.
So team roping, was that, fair to say team roping was where it was at?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that was just, I liked roping calves a lot. I liked everything about it. I liked the time from the post. The team roping was fun. It was easy for me.
Right.
But calf roping was more of a challenge and more of a go fast kind of deal. And once I got to college, if I would have known and could have roped steers for a little while and known what I know now and went and put it into my calf roping, or for any event, it would have slowed me down and learned to do set runs up, to focus on what you're doing instead of just 1, 2, get it on them fast.
Well, the reason I'd asked about the team roping basis, like when we talked all the way back then, I remember you talking about how, man, when the hardest thing is when you have a head rope in your hand, you can make things come together. Like you can hit the start, use the stem to your horse, and you can reach it, and it doesn't really matter. Like what I've been discovering is you don't reach in a steer roping. Everybody says it, I know it from day one. But it's not as much about how far they are in front of you as much as it is what lane they're in. Right. And when you're heading, you got free rein. In calf roping, it feels like you kind of got some free rein.
Right.
And that's why I'd asked about the team roping, because you must hear about, because you're so handy with your rope, and that's not saying calf ropers aren't, but for the most part, like team ropers and healers that, they handle a rope extremely well. Now every calf roper handles a rope well, because there for the longest time, like Cody Ole, he just out ropes everybody at the finals. Trevor, those guys. Now you have Marty Yates, Caleb Schmidt, everybody. They can all do it. It's just all kind of changed, hasn't it?
Right. It's changed a lot, and going back to Cody Ole, that's who I grew up with. He was I followed him.
Is that like junior rodeo?
Junior rodeo and all through till college, till he didn't college rodeo very long. But he was in my county. That's who I had to rope with, So I would go and win second for a long time there, and then all of a sudden he would graduate to the next level, and I'd get to win for a year, And I'd be like, yeah, man. And then I'd jump right back in the same boat with him, But I did team rope with him. Me and him team rope for a long time, but we grew up practicing, and everybody used to tease me and this and that later on in the years, like, you don't practice that much, you don't rope that much. Well, if you'd have been around us when we were growing up, we roped 3 times a day sometimes at Cody's house, and it was a lot of roping going on, and a tough group of guys, You got the Moss, the Cody Ole, Jason Senior, Tony Reyna. It goes on and on. Clay Turney. There's a bunch of guys that grew up in that little old neck of the woods that there was no days off. Trevor, he'd go to the youth rodeos we showed up at too. There was so many. I'm missing a bunch of guys in this name, but it was not like your normal day off. It was like you see all these guys now, and then they're at the NFR, So,
I think that's awesome too when you think back, because I've been trying to see old videos. I want to see old videos of like Sean Sean Burchett.
Right.
You know, because I never saw him rope.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got like a video of Guy Allen tripping. Like those are just fun videos to watch. And so you think when you're talking about all those kids at the junior, could you imagine some mom filming like all the calf rope and slack that day at a junior rodeo, and like the stars that came out of that?
And then go back and watch, 15 years
amazing.
from now, and they're all Thomas and Mack, you know, or butting heads with them the whole lifetime. So you either get better or you get out, one or the other. So it made me rope up, you know. And growing up, you're asking about growing up in a roping family. My dad was left-handed, so there was no growing up in a roping family. You know, I had the Geese brothers, Mark and Jimmy Geese. A lot of guys know them from back in the 80s or 90s, and they lived north of town on me a little way. Well, that's where I'd go practice with, and I'd get all their reject horses, or, you know, when they'd get burned down the road, they'd come back to me, and Dad'd pick them up, and that's what I'd rodeo on. But I always had somebody older than me, and it would drive me nuts because they would out-rope me all the time. But it made me better, you know, in that practice pen. I always wanted to outdo them guys, and I knew they were 4 or 5 years older, some of them older than that, but I would just like, I'm going to get them one of these days. I'm going to get them, you know. So it just kept me going, you know. And then there'd be times when you think, I'm done with this stuff, man. I ain't good enough to do this,
right.
You know. And you might set out and think, you know, I don't think I can do this. I don't know that I'm good enough. I'm not sure. I've been putting the work in. I don't know if I can or can't. But then
I know exactly where you're coming from, Scott. You're
then
just
all of a
keeping
sudden
it
you
coming.
get you a little old break, and then or you sit out for a little while and you think, man, Dad, you can sell all them suckers. Well, then you can't. It's like a bad drug. You just go back to it. I was like, here we go. I'm going back to practice. I can do this, man. This is a challenge, you know. And to this day, it's still a challenge. You know, I keep thinking I'm going to lay up and maybe retire or slow down quite a bit. But, man, I have fun doing it. I mean, I enjoy every bit of it. I enjoy the horsemanship part of it. You know, I got eight or nine horses at the house that are customer horses right now. So I'm
and a
trying to get
list.
them.
He has a list because I've got a horse that I'm actually trying to get on that list. But you're booked up. But there's not. You know, we talked about it earlier. There's not a lot of guys making steer horses, and I mean, you have made some great ones. Let's go through your list. I mean, obviously, you have horse of the year. You had horse of the year last year, Goose.
Yep, Goose horse of the year last year.
Probably when I came down and rode him, I kind of put some sharpening edges on him. Not saying
fine-tuned him right there and just kind of set his whole career in front of him right there. Man,
I make him dummy-proof, man.
I guarantee
when
you
I
just-
crawl off of him, that horse looks at you and he says, "Man, I don't know what I did wrong, but I'll never do it again. Please don't let that guy ride me." That's what happens, and then success follows. But I mean, way back, let's start talking about some of the great. You've had a lot of steer horses of the year.
Oh man, I've been blessed with a bunch of great horses, you know, and I bought a bunch of them through Buster Record. You know, one of them was my very first steer horse was one of Phil Lyons. It was his brother-in-law's horse, and I'm sitting there getting ready to rope, and I tell Roy about this, my rodeo coach. I'm telling him, you know, I think I want to do this, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've been through 50 of you guys every other year come through here thinking they want to tie steers, you know." And I was like, "No, I'm pretty serious about it." So I go along there for a whole semester roping, maybe the next semester before I ever get to do anything. Well, then finally the next year, he sees I'm serious enough. He goes and finds this horse, and I go and get this horse, and he goes, "You're ready. All you need is about 5 years experience and $40,000-$50,000, and you'll be good to go." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" About 5 years later, I'm still trying it, you know. But no, it was a very fun learning process. But back to the horse deal, I've had some. You know,
some great ones.
I've had some good ones. You know, I had Pistol. He was a reserve AQHA horse of the year 2 different years that come from Buster. My dad had one called Major. He won horse of the year twice, and then this one right here. So yeah, I've had a really good gray horse that should have won it for 4 or 5 years named Big Time. He was the best one I've ever owned, but he was great. Never had papers. But
I got you.
yeah, I've had some horsepower. It's been really lucky.
And it's so neat. The horse of the year, obviously, we talk about it a lot, just because everybody votes on it. You know, that's the Cowboys. They say, hey, this is the horse that I would like to put in my trailer,
Right.
if at all possible.
Yeah.
Jess Tierney last year after Claremore, he calls me up, and my horse had Cheeto'd backed off of it a little bit. Not saying it cost me, not saying it didn't. I'm just saying he backed off a little. And so sure enough, I'm just like, man, what I need to do different today? And he's like, well, I got an idea. Here's our plan. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna call Scott up, and we're going to buy his horse. And I'm like, really? Yeah. You've already rode him. I know you like him. He said, you know, he's going to cost a lot. He might cost $150,000. I don't know. But we're going to call him, buy him. And I'm like, really? I want to try to win a check that'll pay my fees, and then we can start talking about the next level stuff. But it is awesome because you are the guy that's always, I mean, people send you horses. You know, like you said, you're booked all the time. When did you really start learning to make a steer horse? Because you didn't obviously, I mean, would you have learned to rope and made you a horse, or did you go get a good horse?
I went and
learn to
bought a
rope?
horse, you know, and that's what I tell everybody. Somebody has to know what's going on, either the horse or the roper. One of you got to know the game. You can't both be learning the same game at the same time. It just doesn't happen.
And I think that's true in every event, in
Yeah.
every discipline.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to know what they're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. So I bought, I don't know, probably 1, 2, 3, probably 4 or 5 horses before I actually started tinkering with making my own horses, you know, thinking I was good enough to make my own horse. Little did I know it was going to take a little bit, you know, but it's a challenge now, and I've learned just trial and error kind of deal, what works, what doesn't work, and my way might not be the best, but I've had some good horses, and it always has something for them to fall back on once I get them to that level where I go to tying them down. But yeah, it's you know, we owned a Western store here in Uvalde for 10 or 12 years, I guess. Moved to Fredericksburg, and then when I moved off to Fredericksburg, that's when I started riding customer horses full time. So, but while I was in Uvalde and I still had the Western store, I'd pick up 1 or 2 here and there and make them into steer horses and enjoyed it. You know, it was just fun watching the athlete progress each day, you know, each month, and then taking the jackpots and try to keep them as sharp and as good as you can make one. You know, I just like the trying and the, you know, you got to fail a little bit here and there, but it keeps stepping them up. You know, as long as they keep going forward, they keep
Then
making a good
they're
horse.
keep-
Yeah.
So did you make all your horses, like growing up, like did you make calf horses? Did you make your head horses? Did you?
No, I made a bunch of them when I was in high school, and I played with it during the summer times. I would get out there and I'd track calves around, you know, and my dad was, like I said, he was left-handed, so he'd put them on the chute and turn them for me if I wanted to heel some. My brother roped a little bit too, but he didn't care much about it. He just went around for the party kind of
Was
deal.
he super talented? Because like I have
He
two
was pretty
sisters
talented.
that were like, they don't really care about it that much. And
Yeah.
they were both so much more talented than I was.
Yeah, like my brother, he could pick up a rope. To this day, he could pick up a rope and go head, and you think he's been practicing every day of his life. You
That's
know?
what I'm saying. That's
Easy as
how
could
my
be, just a
sister-
natural. You know, heeling, he could catch 2 feet every now and then. It was just, it was easy, you know, and he didn't care nothing about it. But it was really good for me because he had to have a horse to go rodeo on, whether it was calf roping or team roping. But he didn't use them during the week, so I got to practice on them, you know. So that was my practice horses, and they were sometimes better than most good horses, you know, that I got to ride. So it was a lot of fun.
You know, I always take a moment and I'll give it my signature moment of our Toter Tales where I like to throw out a piece of, like a little nugget, just a nice little nugget of advice that maybe somebody picks up, maybe somebody hears. And I think we hit 2 of them on the head right there. One, you talking about growing up with the wolf pack of calf ropers that you were around, right? Like that was I mean, you have that attitude of either, you know, metal can sharpen metal. Like you
Yep.
can, iron sharpens iron, and then you can put it in some fire and you can make a sword, by golly. You know what I
Right.
mean? You can really get sharp
Yeah.
if you approach it with the right way,
Right.
instead of like looking for excuses of why you're not winning. 2, I think you hit it right on the nail of the head when you said, you know, go get a good horse. I think that, and I talked about it on the Toter Tales, of the things I did right in steer roping, which was a short list, but buy a good horse. Buy
Right.
one that knows what he's doing. Because I put
Yeah.
my horse in some weird situations, and he's not gotten me hurt. And I think that's
Oh, yeah.
ultimately what we're coming down to.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a huge plus. I mean, just like you might step out a little early, or you might push off, or you might swing too far to the front. Well, an old veteran's just going to keep on going. Like, get out of the way, dude. I got to go to work right here.
Right.
A green one trying to learn, he's going to see you up there and just shoot back down the pin. You're going to end up on your back, mess up your hat.
And
you know,
even,
I mean,
and I mean, you can't be having that. Let's be honest. I mean,
Be
look how
inside
sharp
it.
this guy. I'm sitting here in my shorts, just hanging out doing a Toter Tail. Scott comes in, pure professional, 4-time champ. That's what it looks like. Though those are your 2. Usually, I gotta say, Scott. Usually, it takes us a while. Like it takes us a while to drag out 2 points. You know what I mean? But man, you hit them right off the bat. Having our signature moment. That's right, signature living quarters. Redoing the Toter home, letting us have fun, bringing it to you. Scott, like he said, you don't even recognize it. Go get the Make My Wife Happy package.
there you go.
And that's just kind of good advice for life, really.
And anything, that is exactly right.
Well, I want to jump back because we were talking about those horses and you making horses. Now, you've actually had some pretty good wrecks. And I want to know, like, your 5 best wrecks in the arena.
Ooh, man.
Like, I heard one time you got kicked in the face.
I did. I got kicked. And that wasn't too long ago. That was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Step off the horse at Liberty Hill, place in the first round, come back, hook it on this next one, and I get a front leg over it, so I'm ready for the big jerk, and I really bring him with me. And when I step off, I don't know what caused him to do it, but the next stride he kicks me, and I mean it's right underneath my jaw and throws me back, and I still go try to chase him. He runs off to the corner, and I go back, and everybody runs out there, and I'm like, dang, I'm still all right, you know. And then all of a sudden it's running out my chin. It just split me wide open underneath there. But that was pretty good. You know, I've been fortunate not to be in too many bad wrecks, you know, and tied to them or wrecked, you know, hung up, I guess. But
or just the 5 craziest things. Like one of the craziest things that I've seen was Jess last year. Whenever the steer, like the rebar, the cast, and the horn wrap come off together, still on, like a little,
just
like a little mojo head, hooked to a rope, flying at you, right? Like it was rolling,
absolutely coming fast. Like I've never seen that before either. You know, it's, you know, I had one at a jackpot I was at, and I lost my right stirrup. No, I lost my left stirrup. I done roped the steer. I leave out, lose my left stirrup. Well, I'm trapped.
Right.
And I can't get my foot on the ground, and I'm still hung there.
Like a little kid.
Like a little kid dangling. And to top it off, my rodeo coach, he goes, I got you on this one. I said, oh, no, I'm not going to let you have this one. Well, that was my last steer. All I had to do was tie him down to beat him. I'm dangling like a little kid from my horse. Finally, I pull him back a little bit to get out from underneath it. When I pull him back, he steps over the rope with the back leg, and around the arena we go doing the queen wave around. But I'm just watching. I wasn't tied to him, so I was out of the way, you know. But I've had him do that. I've had him get over the front rope. I tell you what, one time it was I think I still have my permit, and I go from the college rodeo to Huntsville, and I take off, drive up to Guthrie, gonna go to the busting up there. So I take my new steer horse up there, the first one I've ever owned. I get up there, I got my Capri camper, I'm green to all this stuff, you know, and I mean, I'm cruising up there thinking I'm big dogging it, and I get up there and there's a plug.
Dink.
Plug it in that 110, well, there's another cord there. A little bit later, my stuff, everything's flashing. I look out there, my cord's unplugged. Plug it back in. I didn't know you just keep flipping the breaker, you know. I'm like, this guy keeps, this guy's mad at me, you know. And so now I wake up next morning, my lights are flashing on I didn't have a cell phone, I guess, you know. So I get up and I look outside and there's halters hanging from trailers. I'm like, oh my gosh, what time is it? I'm toward the front, and I get up and I get this horse saddled and I start down the track at the Lazy E, that long track going to the arena. So I start down there and I realize I ain't got my belt. I wheel around, go back to the camper, get my belt. Now I'm loping at a high lope, getting to the back end of this arena, and I hear them call Bobby Harris, T. Woman, Scott Snedecor. I'm 3 down, and I'm coming into the back of this arena, and I'm looking through my bag, and I get to the back door. He goes, hey, you got to go turn around and go to the other one. So I turn this horse around. Now we're walking. We're on that asphalt back here. I turn around, straight flat-sided. Tear my jeans. Horse falls all the way to the ground. I still get up, and I'm going down there, and I remember Jim Davis in the stands over. He goes, Snedecor, you running early again? I'm like, man, cut me a little slack here, dude. I don't know what. I get up there, and I'm still shaking. I'm like, what do I need to see? What I do? He goes, horn by, you can go. I take off. I leave. Steer steps in front of me. I reach across there, right around the horns. I go to leave. Horse steps over the front right leg.
Oh.
I thought, man, I should have never got up this morning. I should have stayed in the camper, man. But that was one of my first ones, so it was a little chaotic. Yeah.
Of course, and then like I tell people today, even today, we rope at Uvalde for the San Antonio rodeo. You know, obviously huge rodeo for the year for steer roping.
Right.
I mean, it's a bit, but it doesn't matter if it's here at San Antonio. It doesn't matter if we're at the local amateur rodeo. I'm telling you, I get tunnel vision, blacked out, nervous about steer roping. Like, it gets me that excited. I tell Steph all the time, like, man, I've run a lot of steers for a lot of money, like in the team roping, but this steer roping, man, it's got me, because I think that factor right there, like at any one moment, something can go wrong.
It can go haywire fast.
Perfectly good day.
Yeah.
Always pack a knife. I never really carried a knife a whole lot, which drove my dad nuts. Chief's always like, boy, if you got your pants on, you're gonna need the knife in your pocket. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the old say.
Yeah.
But since I started steer roping, I do keep one close, or I keep
and you keep a
around.
sharp one. Yeah, it's no need to carry it if it ain't sharp, you know. But yeah, it's safety first. That's what I tell them when they come rope. If something ain't right, pull up. We'll bring them back. We'll do it all day long. When you're done, take it off the saddle horn. Right. Always be safe. Don't leave it on the saddle horn and go prancing around or get a horse over it or whatever. But yeah, safety. I mean, because it can go south real fast.
And I think it's something that's great for the audience to hear, of where, like, you are a 4-time world champ. I mean, you're the greatest in the business, and then even you say, man, it can go sideways in a hurry, even for you. I mean, and that's like, if it can happen to Scott Snedecor, which I'm so glad to hear you talk about losing your left stirrup. So, like, one of the 4th or 5th times I've officially owned old Cheeto. I mean, I'm grinding. I'm out there getting it, and same thing. Leave the corner, left stirrup, gone. and I'm doing my best Justin Rumford Spider-Man impression, you know, like when he
You're
runs,
stuck to him.
because I'm about that big and I'm just on the side
Yeah.
there, and Cheeto's just a log, and there's nowhere to get relief, and I mean, I can't
It's a
get my
helpless
stirrup.
feeling, yeah.
So
Yeah,
see, it
it's-
happens to everybody.
It does. It happens. It happens more than you want. You know, you might end up on your back a few times. You might fall out on your knees. I mean, if they laugh at you and they say it ain't happened to you in the steer roping, they ain't roped steers very long.
That's
if
what,
they ain't been in a bind.
you know, I had gone and roped with you. I'd had Cole at the house. I have practiced a long time, and I send all my videos via text message to Jess Tierney. That's my official coach, right? And he's always giving me the rundown. And I never once fell off until he came up to help me. And he was there for Claremore, and we had that extended day because it got
Yeah.
rained out and they moved the slack. I go off the right side. And if you ever fall off the right side in the steer roping, that's the longest fall in the world. Like, I swear I was like, ah! Ah! I had time to take a breath before I hit the
Oh,
ground.
yeah.
And I'm like, I haven't gotten dirty yet. Now, I've ripped my pants.
Yeah, it's a very humbling sport right there. I'm telling you, from being a hero to zero fast, you know,
Yeah.
and it does not take long. You know, you talk about getting nervous at all the big jackpots, the BUI5. I mean, you rope for thousands and thousands of dollars, but you come to a little steer roping deal and you like get all wound up. And I was the same way when I started. And you know, Buster used to tell me, he goes, dude, you just rope too good. I said, there ain't no such thing as rope too good. I'd be winning all the time. He's like, just slow down, you know. And I got thinking of that after a time. He goes, if you'd have tied him left-handed, you'd have been so much faster. And I'm like, what tied that time? I guess I tied him right-handed then, huh? He goes, you don't even know what side you tied him on? I was like, man, when I nod, I'm just like, if I get within 28 foot of this sucker, I got him, and I'm getting off fast, you know. So, yeah, you grow and you mature and figure out to slow down and work on what works for you, you know. And it's matured me a bunch in my rodeo business and trying to slow down in my horsemanship, letting your athlete do all the work, and it makes it easy for you.
You know, because I've never been a part of any sport where it is so relied on the horse.
Yeah.
You know, this horse, we step off of him, and he is facing away from me. He's leaving the scene.
Yeah.
And then you tell him on a word, whoa, and he is supposed to stop and help us here.
Right.
And I mean, that, to me, this sport right here, there is zero room to not have a great horse.
Yes, absolutely. And there's not very many of them. You know,
Right.
people always call looking for a good, solid old horse. Well, you know, I might get calls that people don't know about steer rope, and they go, man, I think I want one of them older horses. I want one that's like 14 or 15 years old. I'm like, dude, that's a
young
prime
one.
right there. That's a young steer horse, and you're going to spend 75, 80,000 if he's a good one, you know, if you can get him for that.
Well,
you
that's
know?
what, you know, somebody, because there's a break in the heading. You know, there comes that point where, like,
Right.
you've got a horse that maybe doesn't have quite the ability, but, man, he's pretty. Boy, he scores. He works. He's easy. You know, that horse is worth a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
He can go to a lot of different people. Then you have those horses that have the potential. Maybe they don't have the mind quite yet. You know,
Yeah.
and those are a special class because not everybody can ride those.
That's right.
And
yeah.
so you start finding that break in those head horses. And I was telling a good friend of mine, Shane Boston, we were talking, and he said, what's a steer horse even cost? And I said, I'm going to tell you right now, if he's between 12 and 15 years old,
Yeah.
and he's good,
Right.
I said, you're going to spend 80 to 100,000.
All day, yeah.
And that just blows people away. I mean, but I think that also.
But they're not on every corner. You know,
Exactly.
You can't find them anywhere and everywhere, you know, and that's, you know, people keep sending here and there and try to make some. You know, I might go through, people always see the good ones.
Right.
They don't see the ones that don't make the cut, you know.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
bunch of them that don't make the cut because you got to go through so many of them. But to try to find that horse that you want to make into a steer horse, you know, and be worth 75 to 80,000 like you're talking about, or 100,000 after 4 years and seasoned and proven. Well, that same horse in the team roping world could go maybe to the general public that there's so many guys out there and
Right.
still turn around and sell them for 50,000. You know, so for a long time I'd get them horses started good. Well, somebody would come by and I team rope on all my tripping horses. I mean, if he's not a good team roping horse, he's probably not gonna make a good steer horse.
So do you
know?
even face, like, when you're heading on them, do you face them?
Once I get them started to tying steers, yeah, I can go back and face them after that. But when I'm in the process, I'll just go to the end of it, stop,
Gotcha.
stand there on the end of it, let them hang on the end of it a little bit. But then once I start tying them down and they're good on the end of it, yeah, I'll go back and start team roping on them and facing them if I need to. Or,
Because I've had people say, "Oh, I don't want to face my busting horse." So I
Yeah.
mean, there you go. Scott Snedecor said you can face your busting horse if you've started tying steers on.
yeah, if I fall off in the
He
middle of the
can't.
head and run, he ought to stay straight. If I'm still on him, he ought to go ahead and face, you know. But no, it's they're not dumb, you know. They feel you if they leave. They know the feel you're looking for. You get in a stirrup, you step off, you bring them under you, you leave them.
You know,
They know the difference.
one thing it feels like a lot of the steer ropers that I've got to talk to and hang out with and try to learn something from. What I love is, and we lost old Buster this year,
Right.
but everybody, it feels like, got advice, started up there. I mean, everybody's got a Buster story.
Oh yeah.
And he was a man of simple advice. When
Yeah.
when Cheeto was backing off on me,
Right.
and Jess was convinced we were going to buy Goose, that was before he won Horse of the Year. So I mean, at least his timing was good.
Yeah, it was.
But anyways, Buster happened to be on the phone with Jess, and we're talking, and I said that, well, I'm thinking about going and dragging some calves on old Cheeto if he's not going to work any harder than that. He needs to work at the ranch. He said,
Right.
that's a great idea. That's what I used to do on all mine. I'd ride the stirrup, step off, and go back down there and cut them. He said, do that, and he'll go back to working.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Yeah.
mean, so we drug calves. I did it about 8 or 10 times. I just step in that stirrup, ride him, send him, go down there,
Yeah.
and I'd make him step up whenever he did, and pretty soon, he hasn't backed off since. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
And then that's also, Snedecor tells me, I call Scott, because I'm like, man, Scott, I don't really have 100,000 to try to buy another horse. So, how do I fix Cheeto? And so I tell you what he's doing, and I send him a video, and he's like, man, you know what you might ought to try? Maybe whenever, like, step off of him, hold that rope, and then kind of pull on it. And if he gives to you, maybe give him one.
Yeah.
Right? This is over the phone, so there's no visual, so I don't know how hard of a we're supposed to give.
And this is a finished horse.
This is a
Yeah,
finished
don't
horse.
go home and try this
Right,
to the
no,
green horse. Yeah.
no, this is a finished horse that was really good. Disclaimer. So I'm in the indoor arena over there, my buddy Griffin Passmore's, and I step off of him and kind of have him headed towards the wall, kind of, where he'll see the fence and kind of back up.
Yeah.
I pull on the rope, he backs up. I'm like, got this. And I'm talking like Budweiser Clydesdales. Whop! And when I step my foot down the next time, I'm 20 feet. Whoa! So I don't know if it was that or Buster telling me to drag them calves. But anyways, back to our good friend Buster Recker.
Yeah.
You lived up there for a while. Is that right? You rodeoed with
I
him?
rodeoed
You
with
stayed
him
there?
for-
Because I want you to tell the story about why you don't come back to Oklahoma or Claremore specifically ever again.
Because I'm scared to death of tornadoes and storms in general. It don't matter. I'm out on that stuff, you know. But yeah, I met Buster going up to the college. I was still going to college. I was going to college finals where I was going, and we stopped at a steer open somewhere, and he got to talking to him. Where you boys headed to, you know? So he's like, y'all come to the house and rope. I was like, hey, let's go over there. We don't get offers. We ain't gonna meet nobody unless we start out, you know. And we go. Couldn't find a better guy to go to than this guy, you know. So we go over there, and him and Jane just feed us whatever you need to do, whatever you want. Let's go rope. We're gonna rope. Well, the first couple times I go down there to rope steers, I take my breakaway rope, and he goes, "What you gonna do with that?" It's like, I thought we was gonna break away some steers, rope some steers. He goes, "We're gonna rope steers. We're not gonna break away none. We're gonna tie them. It's hard and fast right here, you know." And I'm like, "Dang, I like this guy right here, man. It's gonna be fun." So yeah, so that was my first impression with him, and then after that, I rodeoed on and off. You know, me and Justin roped calves a little bit, and I tried to rope steers a little bit here and there. And then one year, Buster asked me, he's like, "How come you don't ever go to the good rodeos?" I'd pull up about Cheyenne, go on home. You know, if I didn't have 10,001 by the time I left Cheyenne, I would go to the house and go do something different, you know. But he asked me about it, and I was like, I told him, he goes, "Dude, you're missing all the good rodeos." He said, "Why don't you just go with me? Go with me 1 year and do this." And so that next year, I load up with him. I got $2,500 won. By the time I get to Dalhart, I got my finals made. I win
bet.
25,000 during that summer run right there. And
So when you
know,
left for like the first one of the summer, or like when
from
did you?
Cheyenne, from
Cheyenne to Dalhart.
to Dalhart, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I had them.
I mean, that's about a month span. I mean, that's like 3 weeks.
It was like a
I mean,
best
that's-
month of my life. I was like, holy cow, man, I can't believe. He goes, "You little hard-headed turd." That's what he always say, you know. And he might have some other choice words in there with him, but we're not gonna say them on down here. But yeah, he was like, "Man, you just got to go to the good ones." He said, "You're missing all the good rodeos." He said, "You rope too good not to do this." And so when I jumped in, when he let me, I took every opportunity I could. I sunk in everything he tried to tell me, you know. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna learn a lot with this guy right here. Well, I'd get mad, you know, if I missed or made a mistake or whatever. I'd still had that calf rope mentality. I'd want to jerk and job and whoop, and I'd get back there. Well, then Buster would mess up somewhere. He'd get back in the truck, and he's just sitting over there, and I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? He don't even get mad or nothing, you know. But that was just that was just him, you know. I was like,
Right.
what do you think about that? And he goes, you know, that's his deal. We'll be another one tomorrow.
That's
Let's
what
go fix
Jess-
it up, you know. And I'm like, surely he's not human. I don't know how I can do this, you know. But he's taught me so much through life about just let it go. Just back
Right.
off and just go do your job. They can't beat you if you go do your job, you know. And
Isn't that a great feeling too? Like that's a great. And it's a great spot. Like when people, you start looking at tapes, you start looking at the way this guy does something. This looks cool. This looks cool. This looks cool. So you start watching all these tapes, but then you get lost in. It's a great spot when you do your job. They can't beat you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a great, because then that simplifies just life. That
It's
simplifies
easy.
the world.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Because then it's just I know that I'm only trying to beat myself. If I can
Right.
do better than I did yesterday on this steer today, then I'm gonna win.
Yep.
What a great spot to be in life. And that's what Jesse, he'd talk about Buster all the time. He'd be like, he said like he was there one day and ran like 8 steers ropes around all around the neck.
Yeah.
He said, why am I? What's happening right there? And Buster said, you're roping around the neck.
Not catching the horns. Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
what am I doing wrong? He said, well,
Yeah.
you're not roping the horns.
Yeah.
But and there's something to be said for a guy
Yeah,
like
don't
that to keep
overthink
it that
too
simple.
much. Just keep it simple. Just plain and simple. You know, people would bring horses over for him to work on. He was good, trained calf horses, this and that. People would bring them, and I remember him telling stories about bringing these horses he sold for, you know, 50,000 back years
Back when
ago.
50,000
was
a lot,
150,000 or more.
yeah.
So they'd drop them off, and they'd have them all slinkied up and blanketed up and everything. And the first thing he'd do, he'd take the blankets and the slinky and everything off. And it'd be wintertime, you know, because they had all the blankets on.
In
It had
Buffalo,
snow there in Buffalo,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Wind blowing up their butt, 100 miles an hour. Well, he'd take all that off and give it to the driver, and he goes, "You ain't gonna need this here," you know. And he'd turn them out, and I'd hear stories about him. Somebody'd call him and goes, "Hey, how's the horse doing?" You know, and he goes, "Well, he's still being a horse right now. I got him turned out." He goes, "You ain't running on?" "No, not yet." About a week later, he goes, "I'll let him wear that snow on his back for a little bit, and then we'll get him up, start working on him again." You know, just simple stuff like that. Just
Right.
treat him like a horse again.
Horseman.
And start over instead of babying him around and doing this and that, you know. So I've learned a little bit of horsemanship from him, but his horsemanship theory was like, "Here, tie one down on this," and I was like, "Buster, you been logging him and stepping on?" He goes, "Well, no, but we got to start somewhere." So I'm the guinea pig here, you know. I was so glad when Jess come along. We stick Jess on one.
Well, that's kind of how the training's been around my house, because I got home and I got this little indoor arena that I've been practicing. I mean, day one when I get back from the finals, I mean, it's get ready for San Antonio and Odessa. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited because I was ready. I told Trevor Brazil, did I tell you about getting a urinal compliment from Trevor Brazil?
No.
That might be the crowning moment of my life.
That is it.
You know, we're all
Something.
standing up in there and you know, we've got these dividers between all the urinals. I've just been signing autographs. I'm trying to rush to get the next one.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, a guy next to me in the urinal next to me, he says, "Hey, good spin last night." And I said, "Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that." You know, it felt good. I needed to do a little better job here or there. And I kind of just, you know, generic answer. He said, "No, I thought I did a great job, man." And like the lingo he uses, I think, wow, this guy is a team roper, right?
He's act like he knows what he's talking about.
So as he comes back, you know, and then he's like, "Hey, good job. Stay after him." And I look, Trevor Brazil. I'm like, I just got a urinal compliment from Trevor Brazil. So now we're going to pick his brain a little bit, you know, because I'll send him videos all the time of me tying.
Right.
Sometimes he sends stuff back. He usually tells me I'm standing up too tall. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I started telling him, and it was round 2. It was the day of round 3. We've run 2 steers. And he said, "Hey, man, just keep it up. You look real comfortable in there." I said, "Thank you." I said, eight more runs, and then I'm going back to tying." He said, 8 more runs, and the real business starts.
There you go.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so I started everything. Like it didn't. I mean, if I headed or heeled on them, I just see what we got when we get done.
Right.
With it. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna take the ones I like and see if I can talk Scott into taking it and being like, "Hey, finish this." will you?"
Yeah.
But oh, Buster, so what happened that you won't ever come back to Oklahoma hardly? Because I tell Scott,
No, I go back to Oklahoma. It's just I don't
Scott-
want to go in the storm season.
Well, that's all season. We just had a tornado a mile from my house 2 weeks ago, literally. But the other day, you know, when I started, the first one I go to, you were so nice. Went to Ada, Oklahoma. It goes terrible. Cheeto, I didn't realize that's why they called him Cheeto. He gets a little tighter to rodeos. And I mean, he's just been cruising right through there. And boy, it's fun. I've got it in my mind what this is fixing to look like. And instead, he almost stops like a calf horse.
Yeah.
And I get posted out there, and I'll never forget because I end up in front of him with the reins in my hand on the ground, standing athlete, my wife, who I love it because never once has she ever given me like heading advice or healing advice.
All right.
And I don't know that she's ever run a steer in the steer tripping, but that day she's like, "Honey, you need to ride the stirrup longer. You need to stay in the stirrup and ride longer." And I'm like, "Honey, I know that's the goal, but like I'm gonna tell you, I was hitting the ground.
You
It
was
was
out of
just which
options.
way was I
Yeah.
fixing to hit the ground?"
Yeah.
But then you told me when I left there, you called and you said, "Hey man, come to the house when you come to San Angelo. You know, spend the day we'll row."
Right.
And it's cool. You extended that invitation to me. He lets me go down there and hang out at the house and row. And really, that's kind of to return the favor. I say, "Hey man, come to Claremore. Just come stay at the house." And he's like, "I don't stay the night when I come to Eastern Oklahoma." So what is the story?
Man, that's just I'm scared to death of storms. Like you know, and I used to not be that bad, but my wife is scared to death of them. Like I'm scared of them now, but she's made me paranoid of this stuff. So we'd be going, we might be at Buster's house, and all of a sudden you'd have this tornado warnings or watches or whatever, and then Buster's like, they don't never come here. They just go over the top of us right here. We're down this hole. They go over the top of us. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. Well, the trailer starts shaking, thunder, a little bit of rain. Kelly, I'm up. I'm going in the house. So she goes in the house. We sit in there for a little bit, and then the storm might pass. She goes, hey, let's go back to the trailer. I'm like, okay, we need to sleep sometime in here. Just let me sleep. Wherever we're stopping, let me sleep. I mean, we've not done this just at Buster's. Not only people we don't know, but some people people we know, but some people we don't know, you know. And we was up there, and I don't even remember where it was. And we was up there, and the storm started blowing in and everything. And she wakes me up. She goes, hey, we got to go inside. I was like, I don't know these people. They just invited us to come over. I ain't going to go in there on their couch, you know. And 2:30 in the morning, somebody going to shoot me, you know. And she goes, I'm going in. Away she goes. She takes off, and away she goes. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going too. I ain't going to be the guy sitting around here saying, I told you so. So, yeah, so that's what I'm scared of, you know. Every time I've gone up there, we go to Claremore, and the sirens go off every time. If I get callbacks, I don't know how they got my email or whatever from upstairs, but every time I go to Claremore, the tornado sirens will go off.
One time.
And we will run to the, what is that right next to it? The water plant or whatever.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't ever had to take cover there.
Oh, yeah. I was underneath them sunbucks down there in the bottom of all this, the water system right there in Claremore, Oklahoma. And it says on the capacity, only takes 300 and some people. I'm like, excuse me, I got to get in here. I'm coming. Get these kids out of here. I got to get in here, you know.
Ma'am, get out of here.
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. So, yeah, that's.
Well, that's why I told you to come stay. I've got a storm shelter. You know what's funny? I grew up in a trailer house in northeast Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And we had them come right through there.
Oh.
And my mom, and our protocol was get in the bathtub, mattress over your head, and you felt like so safe.
Yeah.
Nothing could find me in here. You know what I mean? And then now I look back, I'm like, I'm in a trailer house. Like, I'm in a rocket ship.
Yeah.
If it wants to come through there, just take me with you.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I had kids, boy, boom, we got a storm shelter at the house.
I'm surprised we don't have one, because it was even here in Uvalde, I think, and the storms come through there, and they got the warnings going. There's something west of town coming at, you know, this direction coming through. Well, I'm sitting there going around there, and I get up and I go check the weather and look at the news and this and that. Well, then I come back. Kelly and them are gone. She done heard it and seen there was something west of town coming through. She goes back there, and I'm trying to find her, and I'm like, where in the heck did they go? She's got both kids in our bedroom, in the closet in the back, and got their baseball. Callan's got her little softball helmets on, and there's a football helmet back there. They both got helmets on. I don't know if they had baskets over their head too or what, but I mean, had their helmets on. And I'm like, is this a joke? What are we doing back here? You know, but she was serious. She goes, you stay out there if you want to, but we're going in here. But,
oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, she gets me a little excited on that stuff like that, because she's for real. When it comes bad weather, she is out.
She gets out of there.
Now,
does she ever give you tripping advice?
Yeah.
Because, you know, like Jess and I, of course, we talk a lot about, you know, impressing the wives. Because, like, his wife, he was saying that she was tying with him this week.
Right.
And, like, she videoed me at Cheyenne, and she's like, hustle, 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 hustle. And I'm like, Teresa, my hustle does not look like your husband's hustle. Like, that's as fast as, that's all I got. Right? Like, I'm a Volkswagen compared to that Corvette you're accustomed to filming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that she does. I mean, she's seen it. We've been married for fixing to be 25 years. You know, so she has been around this game as long as I have.
Right.
I mean, we met in college up here at Uvalde. She's from right here, so that's where we started at, right here in college. So she has seen steer roping as long as I have. Maybe not quite as many runs, but quite a few. You know, so she knows how to pick me apart and this and that, or if my horse is doing. She's good about observing the horses, you know, and she might say, hey, you might go look at this horse. It's a pretty good horse over here, you know, but she can pick me apart. She can tell me if I'm, you know, if something's going wrong in the run, she'll pick it apart. You know, you need to go ahead and do this. Or her biggest deal is, man, I call her, I was like, what do you got this round? I was like, I don't really like it that much. You know, I know you're supposed to not worry about the draw that much. I'm supposed to be able to go tackle what I get, but she goes, hey, they give you lemons, you better make lemonade, you know. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'm on it. I'm after it, you know. And but yeah, she can tell, you know, she's seen so many runs. She can tell if I'm doing this or going too far past, or, you know, just anything, you know, as far as tying or your foot stance, anything. I mean, she's seen enough of it. She might not be able to do it. She can dang sure tell you.
Well, one thing I've noticed in steer roping is it is so much about the details. You know, like where your feet are, where your lane, like I talked about earlier. I mean, it's just the little details that you think, oh, I ain't got time for that,
Right.
is actually what makes you fast.
That makes the whole deal difference, you know. And people come all the time, and they're like, "Tell me what I'm doing," and I don't want to be that guy that like you show up there and they go, "Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that." Well, I won't say anything until they ask me, like, "Hey, help me out a little bit," or "Tell me if you see something." Well, then I'll go to tell them anything. But it's usually the small things.
Right.
You know, your horsemanship is huge, but the where you place your feet, the angles you're at, I mean, all that little bitty stuff that people don't think about, and they just think, run out there, get it on the horns, flip it over there, and get off and go. It ain't that easy.
No.
You know, you go to picking it apart, and it's just like any other sport that you're going to be great at. It's not as easy as it looks, you know. So it's the minor details that make you get to the next step easier and faster, you know. So
When I left your house, I called my wife. She's like, "Well, how was it?" She's so excited to hear from me. John Wayne, I've been sending him all the videos. He's trying to get all the little tidbits with me, like, what did he say? What do we do about this? You
Yeah.
know? And I said, it was amazing. And she's like, well, what did he say? And I'm like, well, I would video him making a training run on a horse. I was like he would step off, hold a jerk line, stop his horse, make sure that's good, and then take off and tie him. And I'm sitting there thinking, I just want to make that run. Like,
yeah.
I want to go there, you know. But
Yeah.
that was one thing we talked about a lot, was just all in the details, and then making runs. You just got to make
Yeah,
runs.
there's no substitute to making runs. You know, people always come and like, I got this head horse I can break away on, and I got this and that, and I tie on the post, this and that. Well, you can be the greatest tie on the post guy there is around, and they don't give no prizes for that.
Right.
You know, you might have a little play day, you know, time match or something here and there, but until you put all the runs together, it don't matter, you know, and there's no substitute to it. There's not a dummy that you can simulate doing all the runs that can help you out. So it's it's full contact on this deal. You know what? Back to my college deal, when Roy taught me how to do it, so I'm breakawaying, and I'm breakawaying on my 2 team roping horses, and my healer's like, "Hey, we're going to team rope any?" I was like, "Man, I got to rope some breakaway." So I rope on both my head and horses breakaway. I tie on the ground 25 on each side every day with that Ranger. And then I do this for a semester, and then start in on the next semester about it. And it's like, man, I think I'm ready to tie one down. He goes, "You think so, huh?" And he had a good horse named Rooster. He goes, "Heck, get your tie strings, get on a Rooster, and let's see you knock one down." I'm like, oh boy, this is it right here. Split the horns, the very first one. I love going over and split the horns. I turn around, I go back over there, and I'm like, God, dog, I don't know what happened. He goes, "Get back on your breakaway horse." Yes, sir. I get back on my breakaway horse, finish out. Don't miss another steer. I probably ain't missed one all semester, you know, breakawaying. And so he goes along there, and we go the next day. I'm breakawaying on the horse. He goes, "Hey, get your tie string, get on Rooster again." I'm like, all right, he's going to let me do this again. I run in there. I either split the horns again or wave it off. I don't remember which one. I missed the steer anyhow. I'm like, golly, and I go back, and I'm like, man, he goes, "You know the drill, get on your breakaway horse," you know. And so I do it. I do this 3 days. I neck the next one. I go back. I was like, "Roy, I'll pay you. Just let me run another steer. I'll pay you to do whatever." He goes, "No, you'll learn to take advantage of it. When your time comes, you'll learn to make it count, you know." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I will. I don't know if I'm tough enough to do this, man. I done tried 3 days, and I can't. It can't be that hard." Well, then finally the 4th day, I hook it on one's horns, and I'm like, "Oh baby, I'm going out of here." And I knock him down. He crawls up. I'm like, "I know. Get back on my regular." He goes, "No, it wasn't your fault. Come on, try it again." And that's how I started right there. So yeah, it wasn't like
accountability.
Yes, sir. And that's what Kelly reminds me of that all the time. Like, everybody comes by and want to learn how to trip, wants to do this. So I log them a little bit, teach them how to rope breakaway, teach them how to step off. Well, some of them I'll go ahead and let them do it after a couple times. She goes, "You're already letting them tie steers down?" I'm like,
"We got a regiment. We got to
figure
schedule
it somehow." Yeah. So.
Like Dale Risby said, he has his pyramid of horses that he lets those guys get on. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so speaking of your beautiful wife, Kelly, we got to talk. This is the strangest thing I'd ever heard of, right? So I'm at the timed event last year, which you were a timed event contestant, right? You've been up there.
Yeah.
Have some luck?
Yeah, I placed at it twice. You know, I always walked away disappointed. It was the funnest event I've ever done.
Hey, it's the most fun to help
loved
there.
It. You know, and I did it for probably 6 or 7 years. The first year, I get toted out of there. Well, I broke ribs. I went over the front of a bulldog steer. He kind of stepped in front of me, and I thought, I got him. And I missed the inside horn. I fall on my butt like them guys do and go to stand up. Steer hits me from behind. I break 3 ribs. And I go back there, and I'm trying to get back on my busting. Busting's next, you know, and I'm trying to get on my busting horse. I pick my hands up, I'm like, I'm sitting around there, and I tried again, and Jess's dad, Paul goes by me. He goes, hey, he said, it looked like you're a little pale over there. He said, that building out at the end of the arena, they'll take good care of you if you want to go down there and see. He said, I've been down there a bunch. I was like, I guess I'm going to have to go. And I finally went down there, and they took me in. I sure enough had broke ribs. So that was my first deal. And then I went in between there for about 5 years. Had one kick loose to possibly win it, depending on the rest of the day.
Kick loose in the steer
kick loose
open.
in the calf open.
In the calf open.
Yeah. And then I've placed fifth at it once, maybe sixth once.
I think, was there extra pressure when your steer came in there, like in the steer open, like when it's your event?
No, not me. I mean, the only pressure I had was, I really didn't have no pressure.
Right.
I just enjoyed it.
Just
it was
enjoyed
fun. It's something I
the
do
grind.
every day. Yeah,
Yeah.
besides the bulldogging, and I like the bulldogging. I just wasn't very good at it. I liked it. I'd jump off on anything, but it was fun. I had a lot of fun doing it and preparing for it. It takes a lot of work to get it going and doing it, but I did it every day and all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun to me. But the last year I tore my knee up bulldogging again, so I quit. I went back and I helped a couple of years. I headed for trail at Bayer a couple of years, and Mike Guthier, and that was fun because I could sit there and watch.
Right, and
the
that's
rest
kind of
of
where
it.
I love it, and because I help Jess and Russell.
Right.
And man, because you're kind of part of the team, and you're kind of keeping track
Yeah.
of what's going on. J-Dub, he's having fun. We've got 9 or so horses across here. Everybody's mounting out and using, and it's a blast. It's one of my favorite things ever. It's the most pressure
Oh yeah.
for the least amount of money.
Yeah,
that
it is.
you'll ever-
Yeah,
but I
for the
mean,
least amount of money, but you
it's
don't want
just
to be
more
on your
fun.
end. Yeah.
It's just more fun than
It
anything.
is exactly a lot of fun.
Well,
It
I was
is.
at the timed event last year, and my great sponsor, CSI, Donna
Yeah.
Sidoris, Aim High, ride CSI. And she asked me, she goes, hey, do you know Scott Snedecor very well? And I said, oh, I know him. Like, yeah. And she goes, what kind of guy is he? And I was like, he's a great guy. She goes, well, that's what I thought, and I just got this message.
Oh my gosh.
Right? She goes, about some Uber driver and this and that. So she'd message you, and you were like, well, I'm at home. I wasn't with an Uber driver. Tell us about your fake Uber driver and
Man.
all that, and tell us how the whole saga continued.
I got to
or ends.
remember that deal, but it was last.
It was
it
last year. Last
It was
March,
last year before I go to Andrews.
because
It was during the
Andrews
Fort Worth
has
deal
the-
going on or whatever up there in Fort Worth. Maybe something was going on, and so before I'm waiting on Steven Stronsky to come by and pick me up and go to Andrews to the busting out there, and Donna called me. She might have texted me or she might have called me. I don't remember. Anyway, she goes, hey, FYI, I just got this sent to me via message, and I'm reading. And I'm like, how does that happen? I was like, I ain't been in an Uber and.
And so the message was,
I know you sponsor Scott Snedecor. He's not the guy you think he is, something or another. I've never been so scared and felt for my life or something or another in this Uber. I picked him up at an Uber in Fort Worth last night at 2-something
so
o'clock.
she's claiming she's picked you
She's
up in
picked
Fort
me
Worth,
up in Fort Worth,
and you have freaked her smooth out.
and I've scared her, talked about whatever, that night. They didn't go on details about that, but something about never being that safe and this and that, and I'm like,
and
I've been in Fredericksburg with my wife all weekend. I said, and I'm leaving here in a minute to go to Andrews, and this was supposed to be last night. She goes, yeah. She said last night at 2-something. I said, I looked at my Uber account to see if it's been used. Well, it ain't been used in 3 years. My wife is with me from an Uber usually, so it's used hers. And I'm like, I don't have no idea. So I try to reach out to this lady, and I sent her a message saying, hey, I'm sorry about the the bad experience you had last night, but that was not Scott Snedecor you had in your car. I said, because I'm in Fredericksburg, Texas. Well, I never hear nothing back from her. Well, she sends this out to every one of my sponsors.
Oh.
Every one of them. So I go to heading them off like,
Hey,
if you get anything, I ain't been in Fort Worth. I've been in Fredericksburg. I said, I ain't been in Fort Worth in years. I said, so I don't know.
Definitely not taking an Uber at 2:30. We're
Yeah.
sleeping. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, I guess
So- So yeah, it went around for a while, and she goes, well, you can go about him being the good old boy you think he is, but he's not. I was scared.
So
for my
she
life.
actually never interacted with you, but she would just
never would
sponsor.
enter. No, never would. And
So she
finally-
was she was trying to just scam some money on
Yeah,
the
and I don't
sponsor
know
to
what
keep
she
it
was
good.
trying to do. I mean, nothing
Never
ever
made any
come about.
demands.
No demands, no nothing. So I call when I get to Andrews that day. I learned this on the way, and that's when I talked to Donna back and forth when Steve and me and him were going to Andrews. So I called the guy there in town that I know, the chief of police in Fredericksburg, and I called him. I was like, hey, this happened. What do I need to do? I mean, what's going on here? I said, this is the craziest thing. I said, my Uber account ain't been used, this and that. Well, he goes, call in and we'll write it down. If anything else expires or perspires out of it, we'll do something. We'll have notes on it, but nothing ever come about it ever again. And I don't know. I mean, my wife even sent out stuff. She goes, I don't know who you had in that car, but he was with me the last 2 nights at our home in Fredericksburg. So I'm like, thank God I was at home, you know, because how am I going to explain this one, you know? But no, but that's.
But what a deal, and that's what I've just know. It's so bizarre. It's so
Right.
crazy, but that's really the world we live in now.
It is, and I don't know what she was trying to get. And the cops, they went up there and they said there is an Uber driver with this name, has a license plate, or her driver's license goes to Fort Worth, and so I don't. Nothing ever come about of it, luckily, but I don't know what her intentions were or what she thought she was going to get. But yeah, that was the craziest thing that's ever.
That was
happened to me.
nuts. When I heard it, I was like, wow. That's why I'd asked you if we could talk about anything on the podcast, because I wanted. I mean, in case it's happened to you out there on the Toter Tales, you hear it here first. It's happened to Scott Snedecor, and you know that's. To me, it worries me a lot, like social media and where everything can be going. I mean, it can be used
Right.
for so much good.
Right.
But aren't you kind of impressed that she had your entire sponsor list?
Everybody, like
I mean, that's kind of impressive.
You know what I wanted to find out was who she did pick up that night. That
Right.
told him that he was Scott Snedeker. You know, that it had to be some,body I know. You would
Right.
think, but
Oh.
somebody threw me
Somebody's
under the
covering
bus.
you. Yeah,
I
somebody's
mean,
using the.
way down
Probably
there.
even has one of your shirts.
Could be. I mean, I just don't know. You know, that's what I kept asking that guy. I said, how do we figure out who she did pick up that day? I said, because I'd like to know. You know, but it never.
Never anything else ever.
Nothing
came out
ever
of it.
came
That's
about of it.
nuts.
Yeah.
That's
It was crazy, but I was sure glad I was at home. and didn't have to explain it to my wife about it because she was still there, you know. But
Oh, I about knocked I was giving the rest of the Toter Tail people a little more of a view of the beautiful signature look. You know, we talked a lot about Jess Tierney. Obviously, is our dear friend, and he came to us this year and he had a little business proposition, little multi-level marketing opportunity for a person. Tell us a little bit about you've gotten into Govi.
yeah,
Tell me about your
yeah,
Govi
it's a-
experience and how it's rocking and rolling.
the Govi opportunity. You know, it's Jess brought it to me after him and Shay talked about it up there July back at Belle Fourche maybe, you know. So they were like, man, how would you like to make a little extra money? I'm like, shoot, I'm all about making extra
Right.
money, you know. What do we got to do here, you know? And then they go to telling me about this fuel catalyst tablet you stick in your fuel tank and get you up to 20 miles a gallon better on your fuel. Might reduce your emissions quite a bit, which gets you more on your DEF fluid, you know. So it's and then on the opportunity side of it, man, a guy can. It's just like any other business. If you want to work at it a little bit, tell your buddies about, you know, if you want to. I want to tell you, hey, how'd you like to save a little bit of money? You're like, oh yeah, I'd like to save.
Absolutely, especially when diesel was
Yeah,
$6
the way
a gallon.
the way the world is right now, you know, everybody wants to save a little money right there, and then you go, and then it works. So then you go tell your other buddies about it and profit on the other side of it, you know. So, but Jess has done a great job. You know, he's all into this stuff, and if a guy needs to learn anything about it, you know, you could message me for it, or we can get a hold of Jess, or
And that's what he talked about. Like, just find his Facebook. You know, type in. He has it real simplified. You know, 1 if you just want the product, 2 if you want the opportunity, and 3 if you just love it.
Yeah.
And I think whenever he brought it to me, same thing. So I'm riding this horse at Cody, Wyoming, and he's like, "Hey, your mount money for the day is buy these tablets and try them. Just try them." He said, "You know, and that's Scott. You're like me. I mean, we back a lot of great companies that
Right.
back us and that believe in products. And that's what I told him. I said, I'm gonna have to see it before I start trying to tell people about it. You know, I gotta use it. And that's what, like, my wife's car, like, it's getting 35 miles a gallon where it was
Yeah.
getting 26. And it's
Right.
like, man, you know, there's of course not, I guess, a standard of it's going to do this. I mean, it's not a magic pill, but like you said,
yeah, it's not a fix all kind of
Right.
deal. All of a sudden, you know, you're not going to just all of a sudden push
But
the button
with
and all
all
of a sudden
the-
I got 20 miles a gallon better, you know.
Right.
But it's like Jess describes it. It's like a vitamin. It's like people taking vitamin. It's good for your engine. It keeps it running clean. It prolongs your engine. I mean, it's just good for it all the
And
way
you know,
around.
I'm sure you're just like me. You've had opportunities to get into some multi-level marketing stuff, but it was always like, I don't sell makeup. You know what I mean? I can't
Right.
sell stuff like that because I don't. You know,
Yeah.
this face doesn't need it. It's just blessed. But now I have a toter home that, you know, I drive everywhere. And it's no 6, and you know, if it can get 1 mile a gallon better, I mean, I'm gonna be
Absolutely.
making money. And so there was opportunity there to save money by, just like this community coffee, spend a little money to save a little money.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how's your experience has been with it. You said your wife, she's put it in her car.
Yeah, you know, she has a Bronco that she drives, and man, it was getting a little over 16 miles a gallon maybe. Stick it in there, she's driving it. It's probably 18.2 to 18.3 pretty consistently, you know. And that's not just open road kind of deal, you know. That's just driving.
That's just
back
around
and
town,
forth
going to
town,
the
yeah,
grocery
here and
store,
there or whatever,
school
you know. So
events.
it's helped it a little over 2 miles a gallon. You know, my pickup on that big trailer, I'm gonna get a mile better. You know, my depth range is gonna be a lot better with it. Callan's little car before she went to college, she had a Lincoln, one in Lincoln Town. No, I like Lincoln SUV.
See, that's like I couldn't even help you out because we're-
MKX is what I was trying to think, or MKC, one of those. So,
I've never been able to afford a Lincoln, but I also don't have 4 gold bars.
well, it was a it was a college kid. I mean, it was a high school kid car, but it was getting 22 miles a gallon.
My high school kid car was a 96 red Suburban with 400,000 miles on it. That was my high school car. Stevie Ray. It was amazing. Matching
Stevie
2
Ray.
horse. Stevie Ray had a matching
Awesome.
2 horse, and me and that old roan, we went everywhere in that.
There you
Sorry.
go.
That was
Yeah,
my,
but no,
how's our car doing? Though?
It's good. It went from 22 to 26 miles a gallon.
Well,
That little car, you know.
We talk a lot about too. When diesel gets to, or when gas, if it ever gets to $1, what was it, like $1.30? That'll be your break even. That's
Right.
when, you know, your tablets that you're putting in there aren't going to pay for
Right.
themselves. When gas is at $1.30.
Yeah, it's got to drop down.
And
where
we've
it
got to
probably
go
never will.
through, survive, or try to get through, however you look at it, a presidential election where maybe gas will get back down there where it's
Yeah.
affordable. But
Yeah.
so there's opportunity there to make a lot of money and save a lot of money. And then also, if you like the opportunity, you like what it is, then they can actually sign up and start getting some rebates and whatnot. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot to this good product right there. I mean, there's a fuel catalyst tablet, but they bring stuff to the table.
Right.
Every so often they're going to bring something new to the table, you
Right.
know. And then there you can go on one link and you can go in there and save, you know, whether you're on flights or if you're in motels or, I mean, it's just a good company to be with, you know. And everybody above you is
Really
willing to
trying
jump
to
in and
help
help. I
you.
mean, anything and everything. You know, I've dealt with Shay Good on there. I've dealt with Randy Neighbors, Jess, and I mean that Randy he's been through a bunch of them already and does very good at what he does. You know, so it's nothing for me to call them guys like, hey, I need to talk to this person about
Right.
it because it's a little over my head right now. But these guys can explain it really good and they'll jump in and help whatever they need to, you know, whether it's explaining the product or the flip side of it or, you know, just visiting with somebody. But they're good people and it's like a small knit family kind of deal.
And it's all the people that we're around. Like it's the guys that, you know,
you
we
want to
rodeo
tell
with
you're going to go
and-
tell your buddies about it
Right.
first, you know, hey, whoever you know that could save a little money, you know, you might not go to, if I don't like Jess over here, I might not go tell him. No, I'm just kidding. But you're going to go tell your people you like, you know, if you think anything about them, you know, hey, I think you need to try out this right here. This is pretty good for you. I think it'd save you money at the pump for starters, and then you go on down there and start promoting it a little bit, and you
And I
make a pretty
think-
good income, supplemental income.
Right, and that's what and a lot of people are, you know, Jess and the people that he's came
Right.
underneath, like they're all making, you know, and they're trying to make your deal better. They're trying to make my
Yes.
deal better, and that's what I liked about it. It was kind of neat how they're helping it down the line versus
Yeah, because if they
up
help
the line.
down the line, it goes up.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to go down, so it's going up the line. So anything they do below them is going to benefit from them. So they're going to
So
want
they're
to do
helping
you
out.
as good as you can. So
And it's not a deal where you have to. If you just want to try the tablet, you can just buy the tablet, try it out. You know, like I said, $1.30 is where it's got to be for it not to make sense
Right.
for you. So it's worth a try.
oh yeah,
And then if you like it and you like the opportunity to own it and to get involved with the company, there's also that side too. So it's not one of those deals like the only way to get this product is sign up to do all this other stuff. No,
Right.
there's opportunity each direction. That's one thing I loved about it. And from what I understand, a fuel catalyst pill really takes a lot of the ethanol stuff out, helps your engine burn a lot cleaner and a
Yep.
longer burn, so that's what sustains your engine life or your engine's ability to go further
Right.
on gas. Is
that's exactly the way I understand it. The same
that's
way, you know,
we
it
have
goes-
understood it the same direction.
Yeah, we're same on it. You know, it's like it changes the molecular structure of the molecules in your fuel. So it goes in there and breaks them up, and it goes attaches to the one. Once it attaches to the fuel to the molecule, it never leaves. So it never lets them get back together. So it breaks
Right.
them up, and it burns more of your fuel, which you get more fuel to burn. So you get more miles per gallon.
Well, that's awesome. Like I said, you can check it out, Scott Snedecor. Can they find you on Facebook? What is the best way to
Yeah, Facebook would be the best way.
Right.
Message me, whatever.
tell Jess Tierney? And but here's what I want you to do. If you're really interested, I want you to go to Jess Tierney, and I want you to just in the comments, just heard about it on the Toter Tales from Scott and Coleman. Boom. That's how you do that.
There
And
you
that
go.
way, you know what I mean? That way,
Yeah.
that way we get to outdo him on his own page. I
There
love
you go,
that.
yeah. Yeah, I'll do them. There you
So
go.
big plans this year. You're not anywhere close to retiring. Obviously, you're one of the
No, I'm
greatest to
not,
ever
man.
do
I'm
it,
having
and-
fun. You know, it's fun, and the kids are all out. They're at school now. You know, I got the boy in D.C. that works up there. He's works for Mike Zink. I think his name's Mike Zinke out of Montana. He's a congressman out of Montana.
Oh wow, that's fun.
He does that, and then Callan is at Stephenville. Going
Rodeo
to school
scholarship?
right there. No scholarship.
She rodeo,
She
but
rodeos.
she rodeo.
Yeah.
I didn't know did she play basketball or because she's tall. Is she a baller?
No, she played volleyball for a little bit, but then she quit after probably
Right.
junior year or so. It just wasn't in the cards for her, I guess. She'd do good, but then she'd be gone or back and forth kind of deal. But yeah, she's a Tarleton. Actually, she went back the other day because they had a mandatory rodeo meeting for Friday at 6:00. So she goes back and had one or two classes she could go to if she needed to. But she drives back to Stephenville Thursday afternoon. We said, sorry about the inconvenience, but we're canceling the rodeo meeting. So she drove all the way up there, 3 hours to Stephenville to go to a rodeo meeting that got canceled. So
and that's rodeo
back. Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's
I've
exactly
drove
right.
3 or 4 hours and wish they would have canceled it. Because
That's right. That's right.
And then you just get right back in the vehicle and go to the next one, smile about it, and
Keep on
continue
going,
forward.
yeah.
Man, well, I appreciate you coming in. Thanks for taking the time today. I
You
know
bet,
we're all
man. I
busy,
enjoyed
and,
it.
and I appreciate you coming and hanging out in the Toter. We'll have to
You
get you
bet.
back in here and tell some more good stories.
Yeah.
That's just exactly how today was. Is what I like. When you get to know the champion behind the buckle, really.
Yeah.
And some great advice, and people get to see the stuff that we talk about outside the arena. It's not always just about roping. It's just the fun little nit bits that happen to everybody.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you coming today.
You bet. And I'm
Thank
glad
you.
to be here. And man, good work today. Hope you finish up tonight good.
That's right. I got
Yeah.
down and bear crawled at one time. My first time I've ever been 9 in my life. So now that he said that, I got to give the recap for the day. 13-1 on the first one. Not saying Cheeto was coming back the strongest. Not saying I was riding the stirrup the best way. But all I know is I knocked him down. I strung him high. Redo it. I didn't really even redo it. I just slid it down
Just kinda
because
slid it down, yeah.
I've tried to stack the legs to the string, and it doesn't work for me as well.
Right.
I'm sure there's you guys can get away with that, but I just slid it down because one thing about my dummy, I've been working on my feet,
Yeah.
and I try to pause and stay at the front leg until it's strung good. So then I try, it kind of kicked in right there,
Yeah.
like okay, that boom, and then I jumped to the
You're
back.
seeing things happen.
Right, and
Yeah.
I made a pretty good run. 13-1. Normally be happy about it, but there was 15-12s
There
in the
was quite
first
a
round.
few of them, yeah.
And then come back around 2, had a great steer, and I got it on him really good. Stepped off. I think what happened was, okay, obviously you guys know this. We've talked about it. I'm an athlete, all right, but the athletic 240 top end was maybe going a little faster than the unathletic bottom end, and I busted. I landed on my, not on my face though. I mean, I landed.
You landed like a cat.
It was like a
man.
burpee.
It was like a cat reflexes, just hit
Boom.
and gone. Man,
Bear
how you get on
crawling.
the ground and roll like that and still time a 9?
So I my first one I was telling Jess, I said when I had to reset that string and I jumped to the back, I was like I ought to put 1 because when I lifted his legs he was just dead feeling. You know what I mean? Just he's gonna lay there.
Yeah.
And but the steer was not physically dead. He had a dead feel of not kicking me. I worry about that. I don't want to, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Throw the wrong language at this.
Yeah.
So I cross him and I'm like, I need to put 1 wrap on him, and I got 2 before I even know that.
You're done.
Right? And I'm like, crud. So I was like, I don't think I'm fast enough mentally to the legs feel good, 1 wrap in the hooey, right?
Yeah.
But as I hit the ground and I had both hands down and I am grabbing for dirt, like I was trying to swim through the
Oh,
dirt
yeah.
here, and
Time's rolling,
as
dude.
I'm going, I'm like wrapping a hooey, and I stood up and I put a wrapping a hooey on
Yeah.
it. I told Jess, I said that's the trick.
There it
if
is
I'm
right
on
there.
all 4s, then I have time to think about what
It's
I need
go
to do.
time.
That's
Hurry
right.
up. Rabbit, get
4th
done.
call back. Hopefully,
Yeah.
come in there tonight, do a good job, and see
You
what
bet.
happens. You've actually you won good money in the second round.
So far, yeah, a little bit.
You won what?
Went
third?
Third in the first round, or third in the second round, winning 4th in this last round. Get a little tough today. 10
Man, I
flat
tell you
and
what.
9-3, winning 4th. It's a pretty tough round. Good
That's
set
a
of steers
tough
today.
round.
Yeah.
Hey, and big thank you to San Antonio for having us back.
You bet. Yeah, I'm
Wow.
glad.
And
Yeah.
to all the rodeos that put in steer roping. I
Yeah,
mean, it's one
yeah,
of the
they-
greatest events in all of the rodeo
It
world.
is. I mean, the greatest set of guys.
Oh,
you know,
amazing.
and they're gonna vote. They know when people put them deals back in,
Right.
just like San Antonio. You know, they didn't get that rodeo of the year. That little banner they get to hang up in that building over there, it makes a big difference. You know, and then those steer ropers will tend to their business
right?
and do the voting
And
on
then
there.
do the
So
vote.
yeah, so it's man, it's just a good group of guys. You know, that's why I
Great.
enjoy going and seeing and doing, and it's family oriented. You know, I
Right.
take my wife with me or take the kids with us sometime. when
Yeah,
they-
like
when they're
and that's why I
around
tell
or
my
whatever.
wife all the time. I was like, I'm going to a steer rope, and she's like, well, I want to take a kid with me. She's like, no, who's going to watch him? I'm like, there are people.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's a big family,
It's a big
brotherhood.
family, that's
deal,
right.
You know, like the Fishers having us all out for dinner the other night.
Yeah.
Like, you know, at their place cooking and us having all. I
Right.
mean, it's the coolest. I've
a good
said it
atmosphere.
once and I've said it again and I'll say it till the end of time. I swear that steer ropers are the bulldoggers of the roping world. They are. Like, they're tight knit and they're a great group.
Yeah.
And once again, thank you, Scott, so much for hanging out with me. For my man, 4-time world champion Scott Snedecor, Coleman Proctor, reminding you never miss an opportunity to make somebody's day just a little bit better. Goodbye, everybody. Perfect.